got a summoning boost on sacred shards, and I would be lying you guys if I didn't say I was tempted. So what are we gonna do today? We're gonna go ahead and pull those shards. Hey you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. As I mentioned, we do have a boost on sacred shards, but the first thing we need to do is actually go and grab the free one, because within the anniversary gift that they've got going on, there is a sacred shard, so that does give us one extra one. So we need to go ahead and at least collect that so that we have an extra one that can potentially get us a legendary. This actually does bring me up to 11 sacred shards, which I feel like we should get at least 2 legendaries out of it. Now, it is a ×2 chance of getting legendaries, but there is also a targeted champion boost, which, if I've said it before, I will say it again, I have never hit the 10 times chance from sacred shards. However, it is usual of the Jade, which I will say his Jade armor looks very, very cool. And him as a champion, he's a dwarf attack type, which I don't mind because I do need more dwarfs. Now, his skill 1 does attack an enemy with a 20% chance of granting an extra turn. If this attack kills an enemy, it grants an extra turn. Second skill, attacks all enemies before attacking, reduces the value of any shield buffs on all enemies by 100%, places a 60% decreased defense debuff on them for 2 turns, and they cannot be resisted if this was used on an extra turn. This has a 20% chance of granting an extra turn. Chance increases by 10% for each critical hit, so he needs crit on him. Third skill, attacks an enemy, will ignore shield block damage and unkillable buff, and also ignore stone skin buffs and 100% of the target's defense if this skill was used on an extra turn or an instant turn. And then the passive, if an ally has a chance to gain an extra turn, increases that chance by an additional 5%, and this champion deals 25% more damage on extra turns, so we want him to get extra turns. He also does have an aura which increases ally attack in arena battles by 33%, so pretty cool champ. Wouldn't necessarily mind getting him, but there's also a lot of legendaries out there that I would love to get. There's fusions I've missed because they were before I came into raid. So honestly, I really wouldn't mind anyone, I would say, that is new, and hopefully somebody that helps out my account and my progress. Now, even though it is a boosted chance for legendaries, there are also a lot of epics that I really would not mind in this game. So kind of keeping that in mind with things. Now, starting off with Tammo, who is an epic I don't think I have. We have a 30% chance of stealing a random buff. We have an AoE with a chance of placing decreased attack. We have a counterattack buff on a target ally, which is cool. And if they're from Shadowkin, it's gonna be 3 turns instead of 2. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Places a 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. And places a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies. This would be really good for faction wars. I mean, anyone else I have in Shadowkin would also be good, but honestly. Increases all heals and turn meter fill effects by 20% when used on allies from the Shadowkin faction. So yeah, great for faction wars, honestly. I mean, 4.9 definitely makes sense for that. But like I said, I think it's a champ I don't have, which, I mean, we'll always take that. And Sakara, I'm pretty sure I've actually pulled her before, and I think I wasn't super excited at the time. Critical, fills attacks all enemies 3 times. Not too bad, I guess. Removing a random buff. 2 AoEs in here. Not necessarily a bad thing. And has a self-revive. Only available when Alika's on the same team. Oh, conditional. I don't know. Anytime I get an epic that I'm not like jumping up and down to build, I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. Although we could also end up with just epics today, to be fair. And we have Spider. Name very apt. Oh, actually, really cool design. Little spiders on the ground. I kind of thought that was like part of his look and everything, but he is a dark elves, which actually I don't mind because I don't think I have very many dark elves. So we have a 50% chance of removing a random buff. We have an AoE which increases the duration of all buffs by a turn, or decreases the duration of buffs by a turn, and a chance of actually decreasing attack debuff, and 60% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, 30% chance of placing some weaken. Okay, I mean, nowhere I'm like really thinking apart from, again, faction wars. That's what it always comes down to. It's always faction wars with champs, but not something that I necessarily mind. Steel Skull. Why does this name sound familiar? Steel Skull, why are you familiar? For what reason? Let's see. Attacks an enemy 2 times, 10% chance of placing 5% poison debuff. Heals a target ally and can also remove the debuffs from them. And increased defense. Why is this a familiar name? I actually don't know why I'm thinking that. Not Fusion, which I will say, of all the things that we could pull today, I'm actually very much hoping to pull this champ or this champ. If we're going to get anything from these shards, those would be the ones that I'm actually looking for. Okay, we have 7 more. Let's go see what happens. A legendary, let's go! Who are you? Who's this? Who's this? Why? So many barrels on you. But you know what, you guys? It is a champ that I actually do not have. Oh, this hurts a little bit. Checking out his... But you guys have said don't necessarily judge by what's in-game ratings. I am at the point on this account where, honestly, like any and all legendaries will be helpful. So always got to keep that in mind because even though they might not be rated great here, but you know what? Let's look at the skills and see what this champ actually does. He is a legendary defense. So something I am kind of lacking a bit. And I don't know how many champs I have out of this faction, but let's take a look. So we have the aura, which increases accuracy in battles by 60, attacks an enemy 2 times with a chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random ally skill by a turn. If an ally had their cooldown decrease, also fills the turn meter by 10%. Okay. Removes all debuffs from all allies. We do have a cleanse. Heals all allies by 15% of this champ's max HP, so we need a lot of HP. Also heals each allies by extra 2% for each debuff removed for them. Places a shield buff on all allies equal to 15% of this champion's max HP. Okay. 75% chance of increasing the duration of enemy debuffs by a turn, and a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all ally buffs by a turn. Fills the turn meter by 20%. Also has this passive here, so turn meter reduction effects used against this champ by enemies are decreased by 50%. I do like that. Also fills this champion turn meter by 20% whenever all these debuffs are placed on an ally. And then the active effect, whenever these debuff is removed or expires on an ally, fills their turn meter by 20%. Okay, you know, I could see a few places that I would actually use this champ. I'm kind of interested. I do like the fact that here we have like a cleanse in here. We have a bit of a heal. I don't know. I'll play around with him. You know what? I am going to build this champ for sure. I always build all my legendaries I get, like I said at this point. And you know what? I will make a video. Be sure you subscribe so you see what I end up doing with this champion. I mean, if you have him, you have advice for me, let me know. Comment down below. What do you think of this champ? Where do you use them? And Siege Hulk. I feel like I'm getting tons of champs from this faction today. Like, what is going on? And again, I know not to necessarily go by that, but I typically like to take a look at it. So attacks an enemy and decreases the turn meter by 15% if the target is under decreased defense. Oh, okay. Places a 50% increased attack buff on this champ for 2 turns and attacks all enemies. Okay. Places 30% increased crit rate buff and 30% increased crit damage buff on this champ for 2 turns and attacks an enemy. 75% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff on the target for 2 turns. Oh, okay. I am also starting to think more about something like Doom Tower when I'm pulling these champs, because I'm realizing I do need some specific things when it comes to some of those bosses. So, and Vasque, if you know, Vasque is a good one. There's a few places that Vasque can actually be used. I think I've built Vasque. No, I don't know. I've pulled many Vasque, and at some point they were helpful for me on my account. So, okay, she looks super cool. But that's the thing with the demon spawn ones, actually. Like their name suits them for sure. So we have attacking an enemy 2 times with a chance of increasing the duration of poison debuffs for a turn. Attacks an enemy 3 times. Each hit has a chance of placing a poison sensitivity debuff 4 times at random, and chance of placing a hex debuff. Whenever this champ or an ally lands a critical hit on an enemy under hex debuff, has a 10% chance of placing a poison debuff. This would work really, really well with Elenaril, actually, who, as you know, if you start with my link, you actually get her. And you know what? I think I'm going to build her and try them out together in a team, because I am actually kind of interested with that. And I'm trying to play around with more like poison in champs. We'll see what I can do with that. I'm fascinated by it though. What did I say? Look at this faction, you guys. How many champs am I going to get from here? Grunch? It's the Grunch. I was like, why do you look familiar? You can't tell me that face is not the Grinch. His name is Grunch. It works. It makes sense. Has a 40% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. Attacks all enemies. Oh, we can place a bomb debuff. Okay. Removes all debuffs from all allies and places a continuous heal buff, and fills the turn meter whenever a bomb I mean, if I need a bomb champs, but that's funny. The way they have the look of him with the name Grunch Killjoy. That's the Grinch right there, if you ask me. Okay, I have 2 more shards here. We'll see if I can grab any other legendaries, or if I'm just walking away with one. And of course, probably not getting the targeted one. And the bowhorn. Let's see. What do you do? Oh, we have freeze. Attacks an enemy 2 times. Will ignore 50% of the target's resistance if the target's speed is equal to or less than... Oh, so you gotta be fast. That's fast. Attacks all enemies, and before attacking will increase our attack and speed. Attacks an enemy 3 times, having a 10% ignoring of the defense. 75% chance of placing a true fear. Will ignore the... Again, we're having that ignoring if they're fast. So this champ needs to be built fast, actually. And if the target is a boss, we have a chance of placing a weakened debuff. Okay. I mean, I know I'm not jumping up and down for the champ, but we have one more shard. Let's go and see. And it is a last epic, which is actually Muselia Mage. Which, again, if you use my link, you actually get this champion when you reach level 30. Great champion, great support champ. You 30% chance of decreasing speed debuff for 2 turns, and that is on a skill 1. You increase the crit rate buff and increase defense on all allies for 2 turns, and placing a block debuff buff on all allies. That right there, super supportive, great skill, and removes all debuffs from all allies, heals all allies by 10% of this champ's max HP, heals each ally a further 10% if 1 or more debuff is removed from that ally, heals each ally's turn meter by 15% if 2 or more debuffs are removed from the ally. So honestly, a fantastic support and not a bad way to end these shards off. If you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, I'm actually going to start you off with the free legendary champion on day 1. And then at level 10, level 20, and level 30, you'll get yourself an epic. That is 4 amazing champions that you can get just by downloading using my link. So again, I did not get the targeted champion. Are we surprised? Definitely not, because I feel like I will never ever hit that. We'll see. I don't know. I'm going to be going ahead and pulling on my other account. We'll see. Maybe it'll pop up there. Be sure you subscribe so you don't miss out when I do put that video out. Comment down below and let me know, do you have any advice for this legendary champion I pulled? Or just let me know how your sacred shards went if you pulled them. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!